Hello everyone, I'm Chester44, also known as Fly, and welcome to this Let's Play of In Other Waters. Last episode, we did an exploration in this hidden base we found. A base formerly belonging to Baikal, which it appears, for some reason, they decided to collapse and erase entirely, with everyone trapped inside. One of whom was Manet's mother, who apparently created something here, including, technically, us. The question is, though, what did they find and what did they do that made them decide to erase this entire project? Something happened. For now, we need to head back to base. "4.2 hours down. You're back. I'm down in medical. I disabled the quarantine. It's beautiful in here. Oki? Is that your name? I suppose it is. I like it, despite the history. Listen, I don't know what you are thinking right now, but I wanted to say, I trust you. I don't know what you knew about the arcology, about Baikal's history on this planet, even your own history. But I do know that you helped me. You protected me. You guided me. I owe you for that, no matter where you came from. You didn't choose to be created like any of us. But this place is your home. You are made from pieces of this ocean. From pieces of its past, at least. I'm learning not to be afraid of the past. I'm not afraid of her, either. Of Manet, if that is her name now. I think she must have found something among those skeletons in the bloom. Something truly alien. It changed her. It continues to change her. But perhaps that is what has made it. Change. I found something I think you need to hear. I've been going through the arcology data, and it wasn't the only facility on this planet. There were 2 other sites, 2 other Baikal facilities. We need to find them. Baikal was up to something on this planet, something bigger than just AI research. I don't want to look away. I want to see what Baikal did here with my own eyes. I've marked the site's coordinates on the dive map. We should be able to cut our way in. This is not just about Manet anymore. It's about Baikal. It's about what happened here. It's about your history and the weight it carries. I'm ready when you are. Medical subject unknown. Unidentified subject. Data breach detected. Signal... Ellery? Whatever Manet is. There's still a bit of Manet in there. I hope Ellery's okay through this. Entry 6. I know you've been reading these. The access logs show someone has been in the file system of my terminal, and, well, by process of elimination, it has to be you. I don't mind. In fact, I suppose I've been writing these entries for an imagined audience anyway. Confessions, or maybe just a need to talk. We make a strange trio now. Me, a depressed xenobiologist who can't keep their mouth shut. You, an AI built from the remains of a sentient species, and your sister, Manet, who is now more plant than human. But as far as I can tell, we are the only ones on this planet who have any chance of finding out what happened here. I think I'm starting to understand why Manet called me here. It was not because she trusted me not to give up, not to let this go. Let's not disappoint her. Let's put these samples in here. Alright, to the lab. Let's analyze these samples. We may as well. This will give us information on the Masons. So let's read up on them. Slow Masons are colorless polyps covered in waving cilia, which etch elaborate spirals into the facility they feed upon. These pale, formless creatures are solitary, but not exclusively so. Some accumulate together in groups, hugging against each other's mass. There appears to be no obvious chemical exchange or communication within these groups, but perhaps the patterns they form as they eat serve some social purpose? Their exteriors show frequent evidence of consumption by other species, with no obvious method of defense. Upon being threatened by pressure, the polyps recoil, but do not appear to possess the ability to flee rapidly, nor fight back. Perhaps sampling their secretions might help us to understand the underlying patterns, which we've done. Analysis of the patterns secreted by the slow Masons suggests something close to rudimentary communication. There are repeated motives created by multiple members of the species, unlikely to have emerged simply from their natural movement and feeding patterns. Due to their slow pace, it would take an extensive amount of time to determine and prove a correlation between rhythmic alterations in the pattern and events faced by the polyps. Whether they represent warnings, a form of social engagement, or markers of potential nutrient sources remains unclear. But how are these patterns perceived by the other Masons? Without any obvious eyes, they cannot see them, but perhaps, like Braille, these secretions are read by touch alone. Analysis of the strange, molted skin I found in the Arcology caves show it is clearly formed from the flesh of slow Masons. Within the tissue, the bodies of multiple polyps have knitted together over the span of decades, forming one larger communal layer. It may have provided protection, or perhaps it was the birthing sac for some larger unknown form. Shed skin can represent evidence of renewal or transformation. Perhaps the polyps are not mature, but are a larval stage of the species, with each member uniting to form a larger being. As of yet, I have found no trace of this matured form of a Mason. The cave networks of the ocean floor could hide many creatures that could easily evade discovery. And they just trace out these patterns. I guess these just leave a mystery to us. Onto the dive map. So one of them is over here. Another Baikal facility sits at the center of the bloom beneath the rocky shelf, and the Arcology data is labeled Site 2. One of the Baikal facilities was in this area. It is labeled Site 1. Was this the origin of everything that happened here? So I had seen a path that looked like where we go in order to get to Site 1, but we're not going to go there first. We found the door that leads to Site 2, and we need to get a sample of the source of the bloom in here. Clearly, this is where the bloom is going to come from. So first things first, we are going to retreat back into the bloom and make our way towards this source. We'll find it, and we'll get through this. I am going to gather some more of these, Well, one more of these. Alright. Activate a boost. Let's get down here as quickly as we can. Well, we can secure a few more of these for a little extra air. Okay, we want to head to the east, down over to here. This should be it over here. Let's find the source of the bloom. Okay, we're refueled on air. Remind me what we get. Ah, right, is this those bubbles? Yes, the bloom bubbles. This will provide us with at least a little more of something. Alright, let's charge this up and get into here. Here we go. Choked with rock and sand, the metal chamber is deathly still. The angular shapes of industrial machinery lie in wait. The pillars which stretch up towards the cavernous roof of the chamber are warped and distorted, barely able to hold the weight. Hulking machines built for industrial use sit covered in a fine layer of sand and growth. This was a place where people worked. I imagine this was once a sealed tube stretching from floor to ceiling, but now it is just a round, ragged hole in the metal floor. Half of the rock ceiling above the chamber seems to have come down at once, burying most of the room. Look, that tank. It is filled with microbial growth. What was this place? Be careful, the water will be just as toxic as it is above in the bloom. This dark hole in the floor is spewing out the same microbial clumps as seen in the bloom above. They settle around the vents in layers. Let me take a look up here. Okay, nothing over here. Fine, let's take a look down at the bottom of this. Although this also goes down. Okay, this goes to another location. But I think perhaps we should take a look up over here first. If this was some sort of storage tube. It's gonna hurt a bit, but... This side of the vast tank has been corroded away, melted by the incredibly dense volume of microbes inside. This shattered tank is dense with microbes. Thick green webs of growth stretch across the suit's visor, turning the lamp acid green. Okay, let me see what this says. Huge volumes of rock and sand must have smashed through the layers of facility, burying it and its occupants. Whether it was a control room or a storage shed, this room has been totally crushed by the facility's collapse. Ah! New data. M. Diaz. Sir, Dr. Hess has just arrived from Site 1. Send him through. Constantine has full clearance. Let's see. The shell of some corroded maintenance vehicle is flooded with sand, its top a garden of microbial growth. Angular plates piled with sand are all that remains of the rooms and structures that divided up this level of this facility. Baikal containers marked with now dull yellow biohazard tape. What were they shipping into this facility? This is no lab. This is an industrial facility. These containers must have carried some vital resource for its operation. Fuel, perhaps? Huh. Looks like we have only one direction to go. Through the breached wall and further down. This vast tank is one of two that stretches a full height of the facility. Inside, the water is thick with microbial growth. How did this towering metal container split apart so violently? An accident or something more? These tank walls were breached with explosive force, the remains corroding away over the decades that followed that violent act. The base of the tank is thick with growth. It's hard to see anything in this haze of green. Gleaming in the green, these vast reflector lamps sit at the base of the tank. They must have lined the walls of the container, beaming in light. The oldest and largest microbial colonies lie here. Great translucent green bubbles made from millions upon millions of microbes. Well, let's take this sample. I think this is something we really need. The lamps yield growth. This is where the bloom began. This is no native microbe. It is lab-grown, built to convert light into power and oxygen. A vast microbial fuel cell, designed to thicken the atmosphere of this planet, no doubt. But when it breached containment, I'm surprised anything still lives on this planet. It must have been devastating. These banks of consoles must have controlled the operations within the tank. Now the tank's contents have turned them to scrap. These wide pipes look to have been connected to the Hall's tank. They must have controlled the outflow of whatever was produced here. These pipes, those tanks. This facility was outputting huge volumes of something into the planet's atmosphere. This has to have been a geoengineering project, a way of changing Gliese 667cc. But looking at this place, it suffered a total collapse. What went wrong? Maintenance on the South Hall is continuing. I'm seeing a massive pressure spike here. Control? The tank stands in a huge hall, its pipes leading off into the dark. This facility was not built to study this planet, but to change it. Plumes of green microbial froth pour from the breached tank. Are these microbes even local to this planet, or did Baikal bring them here? Oh good, we can get more samples. There we go. A tall passage between the two halls of the facility. This place must have been impressive when it was in full operation. The central tank has held back the sand and rock, but it leans unsettlingly forward into the hall. A fully sealed tank rises up through the center of the hall, its sheer sides streaked with growth from the southern tank. I think there's something over here. Between the overhanging tank and the buckled, twisted walls, a clear corridor leads forward. Crushed by the rock falls, broken open containers reveal rich patches of microbial growth, like miniature gardens. A row of corroded consoles wired up to an umbilical connection which has been cut away. And a sand-dusted chair props up the remains of a suit, the faceplate clouded with rich green growth. What do we got here? K. Helu. Control, I'm slicing it before it cascades. Clear the reactor chamber. The bacterial outflow is about to hit... I wonder if this is what happened. Everything just going wrong. The connection between this console and the tank is sliced clean through. Is this what stopped it from breaching? A rising wall of sand leans heavily against the tank, burying tons of equipment and who knows what else beneath its slopes. A large access hatch to the floor above lies open, its ladder corroded into a twisted, rusty spine. L. Youngs. Yes, sir. Atmospheric density is increasing ahead of schedule. Please inform the board. They will be pleased. See what's up here. The rows of sand-choked desks, rusted consoles, and dim monitors make it clear. This was the facility's control room. Preserved by the low flow of water inside the control room, the smoothed-out shapes of human bones are scattered across the floor. Oof. Here. This is where they controlled this place once. They were changing this planet, manipulating it. These vast tanks of engineered microbes were their tools. Algae changed the atmosphere of Earth billions of years ago. These creatures were meant to do the same. But by accident or sabotage, this containment was breached. These idiots. They could have killed every last species on this planet. Eaten up in a global bloom. Somehow the reef survived. Somehow the stalks held on, tried to revert our mistake. Humans don't deserve this planet. We didn't deserve to find life. I've seen enough. Scans what's left and I'll take a look back at base. Let's find a way out of here. C. Hess. No. No! Oh god, the tank is breached! The artificers! I didn't mean... F. Tar. Constantine? What are you... Step away from the console. I'm sorry. B. Badejo. We are doing the artificers a favor. Despite all their abilities, they couldn't manifest this kind of planetary change. The control room's evacuation hatch hangs open, piles of rock and sand all around. Despite the cave-in, this console is surprisingly pristine, a cup sitting beside one of the monitors where it was placed decades before. Looks like we can't get into the hole over there. I guess we get out of here. This is why no one escaped the facility. This tunnel is sealed, the control room's escape route cut off. I guess we let them out. Sealed at both ends, this corridor is pristinely preserved, the Baikal decals still visible on the gleaming walls. A second seal locks off the corridor at the other end. They made sure no one would escape. I know we're low on power, but I think we're about to head back. The tunnel leads out into a small shelf overlooking a rift, discreetly cut into the rock. Back in the open water, the current at this end of the rift softly pushes against the suit. Excuse me. Above, the steep rift wall meets the shelf of the bloom. To the north, green clouds rise up, the familiar sight of the bloom that surrounds this shelf and the facility below it. Behind the pillars, the reef's strong currents are lessened, making a small sheltered stretch of water on this side of the rift. And this leads us out. I think we can take the route back now. Get recovery. Back online? Good. I've been working with the data we extracted from this facility. What they did here is terrible. They could have wiped out life on this planet. Baikal should have known better than to mess with the entire planet's ecosystem. The failure of the facility was catastrophic. The bloom dominated half of the planet. As far as I can tell, it wiped out the artificers. Think about those skeletons in the bloom. The rest of the planetary ecosystem reacted somehow, resisted, pushed the bloom back. I don't understand how life could have adapted to the changing conditions so quickly, though. It's as if they evolved to meet the challenges of the bloom in mere decades. It's impossible. Let's keep looking. There's another facility to investigate out to the east. There has to be more to this. Still asking about Ellery. Nothing new at the terminal. Well, we finally have the sample of this that we need, the bloom source. Let's analyze it at the lab. Alright, let's see what it has to say. The discovery of bloom froth colonies in Site 2 suggests that the bloom microbes are laboratory-adapted cyanobacteria developed for power generation and terraforming. Baikal's original intention may have been to oxygenate the atmosphere of Gliese 667cc, thickening the atmosphere to offset atmospheric warming due to its tidally locked orbit. But when their terraforming site was breached and the species reached the open water, they visited a massive ecological disaster on this planet. How did this planet survive? This aggressive species should have turned this ocean green, flooding it with neurotoxins. Such an adaptive, aggressive, genetically modified species is outlawed by every biological sanction we have. I am preserving these samples as evidence of their crimes. One day Baikal will pay for this. Okay. Well, there is still one more location to go to. Something I noticed. It seems the bloom basically covers this entire region here. As far as we know, it started here, and it covers everything to the west and north. But we also have high currents from over here, which must be the entire reason that this area hasn't been affected by the bloom. The currents were strong enough that it just pushed and kept the bloom from flowing over to the east. That's the only reason I can think of for why it's contained over here. Unfortunately, that means the bloom would have spread over to the west. There must be a lot more death over there. Only a few creatures left. Only the ones that are able to survive in it, of which we've only seen a few. All that remains is whatever is out here in the East Reef. We can get there, and I don't know what we'll find. But that'll be in the next episode. So until then, I am Chester44, also known as Falai. This has been a Let's Play of In Other Waters, and I shall see you all next time.